he was my second child. So I had a child. I'm married. And so it does kind of go against, I think, what most people think of when they think of abortion. I don't think any of my friends or family would look at me and think, oh, she's thought about having an abortion before. We knew we wanted another baby, but I think I just wasn't expecting it to happen that fast. I think we had literally had the conversation one night, and the next night we were pregnant. I was just really overwhelmed, and I wasn't really sure if it was really what I could handle at that moment. Looking online at all my options, I knew my options, but not necessarily like where I could go, who I could talk to. I wasn't comfortable talking to my husband about it. So I think in just a rush, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go here, Athens Pregnancy Resource Center. In my head, nothing that they could say was gonna change my mind. I was like, I don't wanna be pregnant. It is what it is, let's just, So that's kind of where I was at while they were talking, while you were nervously trying to get it all out.
I started working at APC in October of 2015. I was a sophomore at the University of Georgia and had a friend that told me about it. Lindsay was my first official client at the pregnancy center. I was still new and still being shadowed and was super nervous. Typically, when we think about pregnancy center and working there, and we assume that the ones that come in that are married are excited about it and expecting to become pregnant, and then the women who come in that are unmarried, those are the ones we typically expect, to maybe be a little bit more indecisive. And what I've realized, honestly, through working at the pregnancy center is that doesn't matter. And when I remember seeing that Lindsay was married and thinking I don't need to worry about anything. but obviously I just, I stereotyped that. I wasn't thinking about it. So when, we obviously have them fill out a packet of information, and I came back in and we started talking through it, and initially saw that abortion was the option that she was considering. And I just remember obviously being oh my goodness, now I don't know what to say.
Not today.
What to do. And we went through the whole process of the pregnancy test. At the end, we obviously always ask if we can pray for the women, and I asked to pray for her, and don't even remember what I said. And I'm not someone who's super forward to say I don't even remember what I said, but I remember Emma
Me either, it's okay.
But I remember Emma being yeah, Ainsley, you probably shouldn't have said that much. That was probably a little too far, and I was crying in her office, so upset. This was my first client. I had messed everything up. I had said everything wrong, stuttered, dropped papers on the floor, and ultimately she had left more upset than she came.
She went and cried because she thought that she had made things worse, but she had no idea that she really did save my child's life. And like she said, she offered to pray for me. And immediately when she said that, I started crying. And I don't know if she knew, but I was like, hold it back. But I just started bawling. And I don't remember what she said, but I remember we were sitting just like this, and I felt God's arms just hug me and just say, I got this. What I love so much about Ainsley is that she called periodically throughout my pregnancy, and it was always at the perfect time. It was if I was having a bad day, or if it was when I was doubting something. I honestly know that had it not been for her, that he wouldn't be here.
I think the way that the timeline played out was the first time I called you that you answered. You'd either just went into the doctors, and they had just you knew something was going on, and that's when I remember you saying they think it might be an ectopic pregnancy. So I remember calling you back, and I said, I'll call you back next week. And when I followed up, I was expecting to hear that you had miscarried. And then that's when you told me, that everything was fine, and it was a miracle in itself. So. I went into the doctor's office with my husband
Meanwhile, my husband has no idea that any of the stuff with Ansley or Athens Pregnancy Resource Center is going on. We went into the doctor's office for an ultrasound, and the doctor couldn't find Isaac. She looked, and there was no baby. And she couldn't explain it. And the whole time I was like, but I know I'm pregnant. My body's not telling me anything differently. I just knew that I was. And I kept telling my doctor that, and she was like, well, the only thing I can think is that it's an ectopic pregnancy, and we'll just have to go from here. So I remember crying in the car on the way home thinking, I've done this, crying out of like fear and confusion. Just, like I said, my body was not telling me anything differently. And so I got home that day. I just laid in bed, and I remember God saying, this is my way of saying, I can take this from you at any moment. So either get on board, or this is how it's going to be. I prayed at that moment. I said, God, if you just fix this, I will love Isaac, and I will get on board with this pregnancy, and I'll figure this out. Just fix it. So 5 minutes later, my phone rang, and it was the doctor's office, and they said, your numbers are really high. I want you to, go into this office and have a different ultrasound. So I got there, and sure enough, there he was. He just Isaac just he was in there, popping around, doing his thing. And so I just remember thinking, okay, God, okay, let's not do that again. I guess it was a couple of days or maybe a week or so later when Ansley called me, and I was like, I'm so glad you called because I have to tell you. And at that point, my heart had been changed toward my pregnancy, and I knew that Ansley had such a huge impact on it, because had she not prayed that day, I would have gone and I probably would have had an abortion, and Isaac wouldn't have been here. So I needed her to know that had such a huge impact on me and Isaac, and she didn't even know. And so I think it was that day where she said, you were my first client. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I started to see the way that God was working in our relationship. And I think I probably even apologized to you and said, I'm so sorry if I was so mean.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm happy now,
It's just funny because I think when I started there, a lot of times I have clients that are older than me. I think I've maybe only had like one or two that were younger than me. And I sometimes I'm like, why am I even doing this? Like, why do they want to hear from a girl who's like in college? Like, it's just so cool to sit here and listen to Lindsay talk about like how literally I had no idea, but when the days that I would think, oh, I need to call Lindsay today, or the days that she said that she needed to hear someone. So I think it's just, it's so powerful to show that like, it is nothing we do. I mean, it's simply just making ourselves present, and if the Lord guides us somewhere, following that. But I think it's just such a reminder that the Lord is so actively working, and all we need to do is be there and be present. So.
I saw this the other day, and not the other day, a little while ago, and it says guardian angel, because I truly do feel like at that time you were my guardian angel, and now I feel like in a way you're his guardian angel because he's here. So we want you to wear that and be able to think of us, and you can share it with share our story with other people. But you've just been such a huge part.
I'm telling you, I mean, that one morning before I followed you up, I literally prayed and I was like, God, I want to see you work. I know that you do, and I was just so discouraged. So I mean, in a way, like,
well,
it's the sweetest story because it's just such a reminder. Like the Lord was answering a prayer on my end as well. Yeah.